Hello, my name is Marco Cisternas. I am in charge of the research line 1, the temporal dimension of the seismic cycle in the Ciclo project. This is the report 2020. The research line uses both geology and history to try to reconstruct the recurrence of past earthquakes to try to understand the seismic cycle in the Chilean subduction zone. We use, for one side, we use geology as like here in the photograph, stratigraphic columns with a record of past tsunami and subsidence events. And also we use historical records, written historical records, to try to characterize the past earthquakes. We studied 4 segments. We have been studying 4 segments, seismic segments from north to south, the segment of 2015 earthquake, which also include these other 2 events at least. The 1730 segment, which involves metropolitan Chile. The 2010, the South Central Chile, and the 1960 giant earthquake. So those are the 4 areas that we have been working, and I am going to do a brief about these segments. With respect to the northern segment of 2015, we have been working, looking for coastal records in Pachingo, which is a coastal wetlands. You can see here in the photograph, in Tongoy. Here, the work has been made mainly by Jessica De Paolis, who is a PhD student at Virginia Tech, along with her Professor Tina Dura here. And here you can see a view of of our work in the wetland. Here is the only part where we have found so far a record of past tsunamis. Specifically, we found the record of the 1922 tsunami that was quite big in this area. And Jessica is just sent a manuscript for revision to Quaternary Science Review telling about this story. Because this lack of geological records on the coast, we have tried to make associations, collaborative work with SEASA, which is a research center of arid, semi-arid zones that has been working in the little Andean lakes for 20 years. And they have a lot of sediment cores, mainly cores. So we want to work with them to see if we can find candidates for turbidites triggered by earthquakes in this area. So in that way to work in this semi-arid. There are some potential little lakes, as you can see here in Laguna del Viento. Here is the location of the Laguna del Viento, just west of Valparaíso, north of Santiago. They are little lakes, and they have already samples, and we want to start working with those samples to see the potential, like this one. This is Laguna del Viento. Kathleen Wills from University of Ghent group that work with turbidites in lakes is helping us to see the potential of this work in the future. All this idea is based in the good results already obtained by the Lo Encañado Lake, a work that was published by Bandele et al. In 2019 that shows good results. Also for this segment, we have found interesting records of earthquake that happened in 1849, which is in short, we think is a tsunami earthquake. It was a little earthquake, but it produced a big tsunami in Coquimbo Bay. We are just starting to make the preliminary modeling, numerical modeling, and we have a good quantity already of original records of that event. So with this, we close the northern segment of 2015. With respect to the 1730 segment in metropolitan Chile, we have been working mainly through the thesis of the PhD student Matias Carvajal, who is studying the sequence of historical records of the area, and he is finding that most of these earthquakes have, after 1730, they have had very deep ruptures, and this poses a large hazard for the region. So he's making some modeling and trying to understand what it is expected for the future for metropolitan Chile. He is figuring out how the ruptures were, and he has found that there is a tsunami gap in this area. So we are very interested on that. His thesis is already 90% in advance, so he is very close to finish this work. For the other side, for this segment, for the 1730 segment, we have been working the geologic record in a place called Campeche. We already finished the field work, and we are now preparing a manuscript showing a very nice deposit of the 1730 event. This is just north of Valparaiso in Quintero Bay. Just to show you briefly some of the records we find there in the map, a sheet of clean sand, and we are dating that, and all is pointing to this was produced by the 1730 earthquake. With respect to the segment of 2010, also has been worked mainly by PhD students. For one side, Vladimir Saldaña, a PhD student of geology at the University of Concepcion. He's working in the area of Lipimávida between Rapel and Mataquito rivers on the coast. He's looking for sedimentary records of past tsunamis. He wants to compare the 2010 tsunami with the predecessors of that tsunami. And because the coronavirus, we have stopped the field work, but he started working with satellite images to try to characterize how the 2010 tsunami deposit was in the area. And we have already good results about that, promising results at least. Another thesis is led by a PhD student, Diego Aedo, who is working in Isla Santa Maria. He is trying to understand what happened after the 2010. As you know, the island was uplifted 2 meters, around 2 meters, and he has, using the photograph and satellite images, he has been monitoring the change, the morphological change on the coast, and in that way to try to use that modern analog in the past for previous events that are marked probably for big ridges in this sandy plain. He has made some GPR and some dating, and now we have a good idea about the timing which is implied in this old big ridge plain. We are talking about the last 4,000 years probably. So it's a very good record, and now we have to understand how we can use the modern analog of 2010 to interpret the older events. With respect to the historical point of view, which is in charge Daniel Stewart, a historian, who has been trying to understand the difference between the tsunamis and the earthquake through the historical record of the predecessors of 2010, mainly working with 1755, 1835, and in this case, for instance, comparing the inundation, the flooding, the tsunami inundation for different events in the old city of Concepcion, which is Penco. different kind, trying to determine intensities for the event or using the damage. So we have had some, and Daniel already have some publications reporting those findings. With respect to the 1960 segment, we also, in this case, we finished all the historical, all the historical work. We are just focused on the paleoseismology, on the geologic record. And in this case, the work has been done by Gino Figueroa, a master student who is finishing his thesis too. We expect he's going to finish during this first semester his thesis. And also, he has studied the changes on the coast after the 1960 using photograph and satellite images. And he recognized how the coast recedes first and then advanced, okay? So it recovered the coast. And we are using that model also to apply. Here we have the conceptual model of what happened. This is the record of 1960, and we are applying that for older events that also left their marks, their footprints in landward in the plain. He is also trying to make a first approximation of the subsidence of the predecessors of the 1960 using this approach, using a simplistic predictor of shoreline retreat, is the Broom's rule. And he is getting his first result to compare how similar or how different was the subsidence was in every case. We have promising back in the plane now. We have promising results. We have found evidence of very old tsunamis. Up to now, the published results here are for the last 2,000 years. This is the record of for this area of earthquake and tsunamis, and we are trying to push back this this range at least 1,000 years more in the past. So we have found tsunami evidence for an event that happened around 3,300 years before present, and we are working on that. And of course, we were stopped in our fieldwork because the coronavirus. This is a summary of the thing we have been working. I hope it was clear enough, and thank you very much for your attention.